Hello and welcome to our session on navigation. In this session we're looking at pacing and timings. These are two more advanced techniques that are required for if you're going to be navigating, particularly in hills where you might have zero to no visibility, or where you're more likely to get lost and there's limited sort of features to look at. Okay, so first and foremost, what is pacing? So pacing is an accurate way of measuring distances whilst you're traveling. Okay, you're just going to be counting your footsteps. It does require concentration, and that the distances covered by each one of your steps will vary depending on the terrain. It requires practice. You can't just go off and say, I've got my pacing, it's going to be the same wherever. You want to just make sure you keep dialing it in each time you go for a walk. Just check it. Okay, and you can lose count if you're not careful. So do it over shorter distances because you could end up counting to large numbers. And I would suggest using a counter. On my rucksack, I tend to have 4 or 5 toggles, and I pull one down each time I reach 100 meters in terms of pacing. The first thing you need to do is find a suitable distance to practice this. For this exercise, I found a 300-meter straight line on a footpath near where I live. It just goes from a road to a corner of a footpath, and that is what we're going to be using to work out our pacings. Here we go.
Here we are at our location where we're about to practice our pacing. Now it's important when we pace that we have a sensible, normal, natural pace. None of these silly walks where you start stretching your legs. Okay? What we need when we do this is we need to do a nice sensible walk. A bit like what you saw there, me getting back to my start point. When we walk, we want to count every right foot down or every left foot down. We don't want to count every foot because it just gets to too big a number. So keeping it simple, we're going to have a nice standard stride. We're going to walk our 300 metres to the corner that we identified in the map earlier, and we'll see what we've got to at that stage. So follow my feet now, I'm going to count every right foot down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 191, 192, 193, 194, 195. Okay, I'm at the corner I was aiming for. That was 195 paces to get here. So that's 300 metres covered. I actually really want to know how many paces in 100 metres for me. So 195 divided by 3 is a nice 65. Okay, I know normally I'm possibly about 66, 67 from in the mountains, but on the flat, 65 seems like a good pace there. So I now know 65 paces for me will mean I'll travel horizontally on a map 100 metres. I can now use that to navigate around an unknown location. Now, I'm 6 foot, just about, and if you are a bit shorter than me, you're likely to need more paces. If you're a bit taller than me, you're likely to use fewer paces. So that gives you a bit of a measure as to how good your pacing is. Best thing to do now is to find a location on your map, somewhere near your house, go for a walk and pace out a distance. Then you can go and test that again and again, and you'll get it more and more accurate the more you do this. Okay, it's good to note down your pacings. As I said, mine is 65 paces to cover 100 metres. What's yours?
So that was pacing. Now we're going to look at timings. Timings are much better for over a larger distance, and also it's really useful for planning your day. I know many of you will be doing the Duke of Edinburgh Award expeditions, and you'll be writing route cards, and you need to know how long it's going to take you to get from one place to another place to put into your route cards. So timings are really important. It'll help you to know your distance you travelled, particularly over long distances, like I said. It is very dependent, however, on your group speed. It's not just an individual, like I know exactly how many paces are in my 100 metres. The speed at which we travel changes depending on who you walk with. So, and it also will then also vary over the terrain you may or may not walk over. So mud, hills, snow, etc. So that's all going to have a slight difference. Okay, there are a number of different rules. look up Naismith's rule for more information in terms of adding time for going up hills. It's really useful. It's usually about 1 minute per 10 meters of climb you add to your timings. But if you're using eDofE, for instance, that will automatically count that out for you, which is lovely. So without further ado, here's working out timings over the same distance.
Here we are at the same location as earlier. We're going to the same 300-meter walk now, but this time, instead of pacing it, I'm going to look at my watch and see how long it takes me to get my 300 meters. This will be really, really useful in future map reading and navigation, knowing how long it takes us to get from one point to another point. So the time, let's start my stopwatch. Go. Brilliant. Okay, so once again, back at my corner. That was just under 5 minutes 50 to get here, which by my calculation makes it just under 2 minutes per 100 meters. Now, when we're using timings, doing timings over short distances isn't very effective because actually we can't be overly accurate with if you had to step over anything or go around a puddle. But timings is really good for measuring you over a longer distance where you probably aren't going to be counting every footstep over maybe a 2 kilometer distance. So timings for bigger distances, pacing for shorter distances. Once again, go out, practice how long it takes you to walk a certain distance that you know, and from there you've got a good idea of how long it should take you to do that same distance over a mountain in thick fog. Thank you.
So once you've worked out what your usual timings and pacings are, really advise you to actually write that down and maybe print it. I've got little laminated cards that I've made up which have my pacings and timings on, so I can keep track of actually how long it's going to take me to get from A to B. I can make sure if I'm getting a bit tired at the end of the day, counting and adding things up gets a bit harder, so it does it for you. There are a whole host of these available online as well. I've seen a few here from Everything Outdoors that I've borrowed. The one in the blue table are my own from this exercise. So it's definitely worth keeping track of that and trialing it. So you can easily go on a 100-meter race track and count 800 meters, but it's definitely better to do it on a rougher bit of terrain, more like where you're going to be doing your walking. Do find places on your walks and do test how far or how many steps are in your 100 meters, how long does it take you to travel a kilometer, and that'll be really, really useful for you when traveling over mountainous or hilly terrain in the future. Anyway, best of luck. Goodbye.